Today on CityCast Chicago, are the Bears any closer to a new stadium? Will the Bulls ever exit perpetual mediocrity? And where are you starting your independent bookstore crawl this weekend? It's Friday, April 24th. I'm Jacoby Cochran, and this is what Chicago's talking about. Today's episode is sponsored by ComEd. Find rebates and discounts on energy-efficient products at ComEd.com/home savings. Before we get into it, today is the last day of our spring membership campaign, and I just want to say thank you to every single person who has signed up this week. Maybe you signed up because you rock with us and you had a little extra bread to throw our way. Thank you. Maybe you signed up because you wanted that CityCast Chicago blue pennant, and something about Murakami going yard in 5 straight games for the Sox inspired you to go on and make the leap. Or maybe you just hate ads, or I finally wore you down after asking every damn day for $10 a month or $100 a year if you got it like that. But either way, I see you and I appreciate you. And I'm especially excited because if you signed up this week, on Tuesday, we dropping our brand new Neighbors Only segment. This is going to be the 3rd edition. I'm going to be real with y'all. Sometimes these conversations are random as hell. These first 2 weeks, we didn't talk sandwiches and places we honestly wouldn't care that much if they closed down in the city. But next Tuesday, we doing something very special for y'all. The first ever CityCast Chicago Poetry Slam in honor of National Poetry Month. I have no idea what's going to happen, but trust me, I know it's going to be worth it. And I know some of y'all thinking, damn, that's a good ass idea. Why not drop it for everybody? I don't know what to tell you. I've changed. I've grown a little money hungrier in these past couple of weeks with this spring membership campaign. No. The reason is because bonus segments get people to sign up. And we are hoping that this bonus material will give you the motivation you need. So go to membership.citycast.fm and become a neighbor right now. All right? Right now. It's your last day. Your last day. I want to welcome in our guest today. I am always excited to share space with y'all. From Axios Chicago, Justin Kaufman. It is good to see you, my friend.
Great to hear your voice, buddy.
And from Block Club Chicago, Mac Lederman is back in the building.
Jacoby, thanks for having me, man. I was a little sleepy today, but you're always a breath of fresh air, so I appreciate that.
I appreciate you. I got y'all on here at 9 a.m. I know it is difficult. We're about to talk about some big stories happening in and around the city. But usually when I see y'all two faces together, it's Monday night, and we out playing softball at Mozart, and we about a month, 5 weeks away. Justin, you excited to get back out there? You've been out there for years.
I have. You know, this will mark my 15th year playing in this league, and I will say this: I am ready, and I've been all winter long preparing by doing nothing, being completely out of shape.
I will say I have started stretching more in the last couple of weeks, getting that back ready.
Good.
But Mac, from my understanding, you ain't gonna be out there this year, man. That's making me
sorry,
sad
guys.
right now. Where the hell you gonna be?
Unfortunately, I'm moving out to New York City for at least a year. I just accepted a fellowship at the New York Times to work in their newsroom on their breaking news desk. So pumped for that. I'm told that the New York Times may, in fact, have a softball team of its own, but it isn't 16-inch, that's for sure.
You'll have an unbelievable career in journalism, but there will be a blemish on your there will be a 12-inch softball blemish.
There'll be an asterisk on your Hall of Fame resume. Hey, I appreciate both of y'all being here. Mac, we're going to miss you out there, but I'm very excited for you, man. Congratulations. I'm wishing you nothing but the best in your time there. The New York Times just got a little bit better. Because you're going to be pulling up. Now we got to talk about a story that I imagine annoys the hell out of all of us a little bit because we've been talking about it for years. But this past season, it felt like Bears executives, like they couldn't help themselves but try and distract us from what felt like the best season in years because they kept reminding us that they were not long for Soldier Field. They have pitted Arlington Heights against Indiana, even Iowa got in on that, right? A couple years ago, Chicago and Mayor Johnson was out there cheerleading, hoping that they would build a bigger home right here on the lakefront. But that seems like a distant memory at this point. What's going down in Springfield right now while lawmakers do their best to try and keep the Bears in Illinois?
I mean, we are coming to the sudden realization, even though it's been gradual for years now, that the Bears are indeed leaving Chicago. The House passed a huge mega projects bill that would essentially give property tax relief. Everyone wants to hedge it and talk about different ways, but it's a tax incentive bill for the Bears to stay in the state of Illinois. Similar, if not the same, to what Indiana is offering to lure them across the border. And I give the lawmakers credit, because the Chicago lawmakers really stood in the way of this, because they were like, you're just going to give a tax deal for them to move to Arlington Heights. If
this could have been done years ago,
right,
when they originally bought the property, when these conversations first came up. It didn't necessarily have to get to Indiana and Iowa, but there was this sense early on that lawmakers were going to hold ground. People don't want hundreds of millions, billions of dollars given out to billionaire franchises to build stadiums that they are going to keep most of the profits on. And nobody was here for this strong arm game, but yet here we are, and they are in session rushing to bring something together.
And, they will say that the people of Illinois won if this bill gets through the Senate, because essentially what they're doing is saying there will be tax relief, property tax relief for all Illinoisans. So this is a really convoluted, I don't really truly understand how they can say that, but essentially what happens is, instead of paying property tax on assessed value of the Arlington Park place, they would pay a negotiated fee up front. And part of that fee, 50%, they're saying, would go to property tax relief for everybody. So I don't know how they're doing that and how that's going to work. But the Bears said there's a lot of work left to do on this bill. They're not necessarily happy with it. And they're hoping in the Senate there will be amendments. There's still a question about the infrastructure around. Remember, the Bears at Arlington Park don't just want to build a stadium. They want to build Bearstown, which is hotels, and their even early iterations included townhomes, restaurants, music events. They really want to make it like Disneyland. They have the Disney City that's right outside of it with all the restaurants and different things. They want to do that. So they want infrastructure repairs. They want all of the things that go into Arlington Park, whether you're talking about the train, the highways, or any of the stuff around. They want that to be paid for. The state of Illinois and the governor said, no, you know what? We're not going to just give you that. Anyway, the point is, the state of Illinois is finally responding to this, and they are putting together a package that is in benefit of the Bears staying in Illinois. And what that means is Arlington Park and the Bears could still turn around and say, we still like Indiana. But right now, the front runner would be Arlington Park, the old racetrack, for a new domed Bears stadium.
Mm-hmm. Mac, from your vantage point, who do you think is kind of controlling this narrative?
I mean, are we even talking about Chicago right now, Jacoby? It seems the entire Overton window on the conversation has shifted away from the possibility of a new stadium in the city of Chicago proper at all. I mean, Bears had a great season this last year. I think that fortunately came at the right time for the Bears ownership. That's extra leverage. And then you add on top about this, the Indiana legislator.
That's exactly what I said.
So swiftly moving through a bill welcoming the Bears across their border. That type of pressure on Illinois state lawmakers, I think, has really shifted any conversation away from Chicago. And I was speaking to just some people, recently who said, hey, it's so hard to park at Soldier Field. I might as well just take the train up there anyway. So I think a lot of people are starting to think about this as a reality, but I definitely feel for Bears fans on the south side of Chicago who may have to trek all the way up to Arlington Heights for games. Actually, if they build in Indiana, those fans would be even closer, right, than they would be in Arlington Heights.
They'd be down the street from my mama crib.
Yeah.
What's interesting is that the Chicago Democrats, they want to make sure they don't lose the revenue from Soldier Field. So the Park District put together that $600 million plan to renovate Soldier Field. That's on the table too. Chicago Democrats are like, if the Bears are going to leave, we don't leave empty-handed. Meaning the state is going to make that move and fund that move. The state's going to pay for this reno so we can build a domed Soldier Field 2 that has Beyonce and everybody else in and can be competitive. That's going to be an interesting fight, because that's money that downstate Republicans and Democrats are like, why do I care?
Do you think that the resistance to state funds for Soldier Field change if it's not for the Bears, but rather for the city to maximize that property? Do you think lawmakers are more open to that, or do you think that's potentially a non-starter?
I mean, I think it's why they got the votes. This is where it's going to be interesting. Okay. There were 71 votes in the House, and it's going to the Senate, and it's not a done deal. There's a lot of factors here. The Chicago Teachers Union, Illinois Federation of Teachers, they're involved in this discussion because they're like, listen, property taxes fund schools. If you start making these deals in this mega projects bill that say that you don't have to pay your full freight for a Bears stadium, what about a new skyscraper? What about a Lincoln Yards? What about the 78? All of these mega projects are going to go, I'd like that too. So what happens when all that money is not necessarily coming in, and therefore we can't balance the budget when it comes to schools? There's a lot going on. There's a lot of fluidity.
It's unclear where Pritzker lands on this. Obviously, any sort of bill that passes through will need his blessing. And I think Justin made an important point there that just goes to mega projects in general, beyond just the Bears building Bearstown, as he said. Obviously, the new White Sox owner, the Ishbia brother taking over the White Sox, is eyeing a new stadium along the Chicago riverfront. That could open up a possibility for him getting tax breaks, property tax freezes to build his project. So mega projects in general, I think, there's some people who are incentivized to turn Chicago into a destination for major sporting events. But with that comes a lot of costs and trades. And I think, Illinois taxpayers might be on the lower end of that.
100%, because we talk about property tax relief. I mean, isn't the most basic form of property tax relief that the properties that have the highest values, that the people who make the most money, that the franchises should be footing the appropriate part of the bill? And if we're allowing them to pay flat fees, which again, you can explain it as this benefits us all, but essentially the way it benefits us is because they don't leave, then that feels dishonest in some respects. And so, yeah, I'm interested to see how this bill moves forward, but I think both of y'all did a great job of connecting this to ongoing mega projects. And what does this mean when the Sox say, okay, we want something across the river from this forthcoming Fire Stadium? What % chance do you give this bill in some form of being finalized by the end of this session and us not moving into a special summer session or lingering into the fall?
It has to be because the Bears have signaled they want to make a decision by the end of spring. It times up perfectly to the end of the session. If they fumble this, if the Senate can't get this done, if Pritzker vetoes it and they don't have a deal by the end, they will have only one choice, and that will be Indiana.
It was like, okay, if we can't pick Illinois versus Illinois, then let's bring in your neighbor who you love to talk shit about. And let's say we gonna get him the money. Now how you feeling? And look, like I got a homie out of nowhere. I'm like, I didn't know you hated Indiana. I would never go to Indiana for a Bears game. I said, it's you in Homewood. It's down the street. What are you talking about? It's right there.
So true.
I'll never go. I said, all right,
it's 5 minutes away. I'll never go.
I'll never. All right. Oh my God damn. It's the same lake, buddy. It's the same lake. It's Earth Week, and many of us are thinking about how we can make a difference. And one of the easiest places to start is actually right at home. And it may come as a surprise, but ComEd is finding ways to make it easier to go green. We're talking modern heat pumps that cool your home with less energy, smart thermostats, electric clothes dryers, and induction cooktops. Whether you rent or own, you can start upgrading and start saving. It's a great way to modernize your place, lower your energy bills, and do something good for the earth all at the same time. Make your Earth Week resolution one that pays you back. Visit ComEd.com/home savings to see how easy it is. Again, that's ComEd.com/home savings. The weather is finally warming up, and maybe you like me and you dreaming about getting away, right? Maybe getting outside your comfort zone, taking a break, relaxing by some water, seeing something brand new. But what if I told you you ain't gotta go quite as far as you think to accomplish all of that? That's because Illinois is literally in the middle of everything. We can get out in nature in breathtaking state parks and epic national forests for hiking, biking, all around adventuring, or explore Illinois' small town charm, or visit some of the state historical sites like Lincoln's Crib, or maybe embark on the ideal road trip celebrating 100 years of Route 66 with giant attractions along the 300-mile route. Or maybe we just go ahead and kick back in Chicago. Finally take in the lakefront, the museums, the shows we promised ourselves we're gonna do all year and never get around to. However you're looking to get away, even if you stay at home, find just what you're looking for and a little more at enjoyillinois.com. Let's keep things moving. Changes are coming to CTA, particularly around their public safety strategy. Yesterday, we discussed all of the different security or police personnel you may see or encounter near CTA buses and trains on any given day. And that came after the CTA ended a contract with one of their security vendors, Monterey. Mac, you've been reporting on this for years now. Did the city give a clear reason why they were making this decision and what comes next?
They did, but only after the fact, Jacoby. And Monterey Security is out there going around town saying that they pulled workers off the middle of their shifts on Friday night. So a lot of people, 250 people, these are their full-time jobs, man. These are their livelihoods. Being told that while you're on the work at the Roosevelt station, you got to pick up your bags and go. I mean, that's tough work. So this came as a surprise for many, many people. And now the CTA is kind of out there saying retroactively that they're investing more in the county sheriff's police forces, hiring more CPD police officers for overtime shifts, and investing more in other types of infrastructure. But we're seeing just more shift to kind of the law enforcement first nature of guarding the CTA, and a lot of that has to do with this new federal pressure bearing down from the Trump administration. CTA crime has been relatively flat over the last year, but there has been several very high-profile instances on trains that have caught the federal attention, including a rider being burned on a train. So the federal government is still floating withholding $50 million from CTA unless they muscle up and beef up security, and that's what's happened with these county police officers, additional K-9 units. So I think with that all coming down the pipeline, the costs associated with that, the CTA has shifted away from these private security contracts for unarmed guards very rapidly.
Yeah. So current acting CTA president Nora Learson said, this contract was mutually agreed upon, long established, and once it expired and the funds were used, right, we'd move on. And that's what happened here, that we were at the end of a deal. Whereas, as you point out, Monterey, who's lead executive is a former Chicago police officer and has some direct ties to the city, has painted this as much more abrupt. Mac, reading about reporting about the history of police officers on CTA, it's like this 40, 50-year cycle of well, they had a transit police force, they ended it. They brought private security, they ended it. They brought CPD in, they ended it. It's sort of this back and forth. What will calm people in the moment?
Yeah, it's a great point, Jacoby. Just as how crime ebbs and flows in the city, how we deal with crime also ebbs and flows in Chicago. And, at the end of the day, how do we solve crime is a question we're not going to figure out on this podcast right now. But the CTA, and 100%. This really was turbocharged during the pandemic. People who are unhoused, people who are dealing with drug abuse issues, a lot of them go to the CTA as a moving shelter. So, if we want to find these people housing, if we want to, create more services for people to get clean, that's probably the main way to kind of clear out bad actors that are creating hostile commutes on the system. But for now, I think we're seeing kind of a muscling up, and I'm interested to see what that looks like, because we already have a clear example of that being tried in New York a couple years ago with the National Guard, former Mayor Eric Adams bringing police there to effectively clear out all the homeless people on the system, and that led to what people found to be very tense commutes, feeling uncomfortable going on their way to work, a high-profile shooting inside the transit system, which obviously is an enclosed environment and creates a very dangerous situation, feeling of people being racially profiled on their commutes. So it's tit for tat. It's hard. You clean it out, but then you stress people out in another way. So I'm interested to see what that looks like on the CTA, because I've definitely, at least on my own commute, seen a greater presence of the K-9s and the county police for sure.
I would argue too, going the back and forth, the yo-yo of it, what's never mentioned too is that, there's a finite amount of police officers. What happens when you have to take some of these resources and put them on the train? And yes, maybe that stops some of the violent crime that we've talked about, but what does it do to the officers that are on the street? These are decisions that lawmakers and heads of police have to make. And there is no doubt about it. I will give my opinion. This is a knee-jerk to federal funding being law. If this was Brandon Johnson and he didn't have to worry about funding, there's no way they'd put the cops on the trains. They might 100%. Change things. That may redo this contract unarmed. This is so flies in the face of what Brandon Johnson's about, and this is strictly that they are going to lose millions and millions of dollars in federal funding if they don't.
Great point. I know there are some who will say, these dips in crime we have seen because of the strategic placement of police. But then there were others who will say, no, it has to do that we've also increased nonviolent responders.
Right.
We've increased mental health professionals. We've increased access to shelter beds, maybe, right? We've increased the number of violence interrupters on the street. So, Mac, when we think about CTA public safety strategy, has there been any conversation around CTA ambassadors, clinicians, service providers? Since so much of the attention has been on armed police, have those things been lost to the wayside?
Yeah, I mean, the answer to your question, Jacoby, is yes, but it's small, it's minor. These are pilot programs for a lot of these things. We've seen, vending machines for Narcan at different points in the system. I think maybe there's 3 or 4 of them, and a $2 million pilot program for effectively transit ambassadors who, go and walk train cars at certain set hours and check on people to see if they're all right. Those programs are rather small. A lot of people think they need to be bigger. But the good news is that the CTA now has a $1.5 billion bailout from the state government to make loads of investments and fund the system for years to come. But unfortunately, it seems like the first trunk is going towards these new security contracts for the canines and paying the county police and some infrastructure projects. So it's going to be interesting to see if down the line they eventually expand to kind of these root causes programs as well.
I want to hear from y'all listeners, 773-780-0246. Have you noticed the change on your commute? How has it impacted your experience on the train? Do you feel safer? Let me know. I want your name, your neighborhood, and your answer.
Hey, executive producer Simone Alicea here. And did you know CityCast Chicago neighbors get even more of the podcast? See our team. That's me, host Jacoby Cochran, creative producers Michelle Navarro and Emmy Mack, and audience development manager Chima Okoro. We're a bunch of yappers, and neighbors get an inside look into our behind-the-scenes conversations in a special bonus segment every Tuesday. We might be trying to find out where the nearest tornado siren is, or debating if there are more pizza puffs or hot dogs in Chicago, or digging into the best way to tell a story that we're working on. So if you already love the show and you want more, become a CityCast Chicago neighbor. You can only hear these bonus segments on the ad-free feed, which you can only get by being a neighbor. It's $10 a month or $100 a year. And in addition to getting more CityCast Chicago, you're also directly supporting us so we can keep making it for you. You can join now at membership.citycast.fm/Chicago. That's membership.citycast.fm/Chicago. And neighbors, I'll see you in the bonus segment.
Before we finish out, remember today is the final day of our spring membership campaign, and the last day we're giving away these absolutely gorgeous custom-made felt wool pennants from Oxford Pennant. These are specially made just for y'all in celebration of everything we love about the podcast, newsletter, and most importantly, our city. It's got that CityCast Chicago blue, the Sears Tower, and it says, "I live here on purpose," because you're damn right I do. Again, we want you to pick these up as a one-of-a-kind token of city pride. I'm probably going to throw mine above my calendar on my computer screen so I see it every day. And again, take pictures of it. Share it on Instagram. Share it on your TikTok, whatever social media you using these days, Blue Sky. Just let people know that you rock with the podcast newsletter. We don't gatekeep around here. Everybody needs this. So head over to membership.citycast.fm/Chicago. And if you already signed up this week, we're going to get your pennant in the mail soon. But remember, you can gift this as well. April is the month of birthdays in my life. And I think a CityCast Chicago membership is the perfect gift. They get a little news. They get an events calendar every single week, so they ain't even got to think about that. Mark that off, and we keep them tapped in to all of the stories we're covering throughout the week. Again, that's membership.citycast.fm/Chicago. So let's get back to that promise of keeping people tapped into the stories. Justin, let's stay on sports.
Yeah.
I'm going to be real with you. We haven't talked much about the Bulls in the last couple of months because essentially their season been over about as long as the Bears, but they have also made some changes in the front office heading into the playoffs and the draft in a couple of months. What's going on there?
Yeah, well, they right before the season ended, the Chicago Bulls, which were mired in mediocrity and decided to get rid of all their players at the trade deadline for not much in return.
Nope.
That wasn't enough for Jerry Reinsdorf, including a really bad look with Jaden Ivey, who went to online and was preaching and talking about anti-LGBT stuff, and they had to cut him. He was thought to be part of their future. So the ownership there cut the general manager and the president this a couple weeks ago, and then this week Billy Donovan, who they had said, Michael Reinsdorf said, anyone we hire to be the new GM has to keep Billy Donovan. Well, Billy Donovan said, see ya, I'm out. And so he's gone. So now there is no coach, no front office to a team that is pretty young and in a rebuild. So the question becomes, which direction are the Bulls going to do? Because you're absolutely right. I know people maybe tune out because they don't care about sports or whatever it might be, and it's basketball. But, it's this time of year when it gets nice out, and it's April, May, June. When the Chicago Bulls were great in the 90s, even when they had runs with Derrick Rose, it's an economic generator. If you're out in a game 4 in a home game at the United Center and you're in any of the neighborhoods in Chicago, like it is popping off. And we haven't had that experience in Chicago. And I would assume that a lot of, think about, I think Billy Donovan and the Chicago Bulls had one playoff run during his whole experience, and that was a one and done series against Milwaukee Bucks after Lonzo Ball got hurt. And so there really hasn't been any flavor, competition, excitement, economic driver out of the United Center in years. So this is a monster.
And yet they keep selling out.
And there's another thing that I didn't know this. This is interesting because I always saw that and I'm like, wow, they're always at the top when it comes to selling
attendance,
out.
Yeah.
It's the biggest stadium in the NBA. I didn't know that. The United Center is. But I will say, what's interesting here is the Bulls have an opportunity. They can go reset and they can bring in no names and try to build up and make things happen. But interestingly, in the same week, Steve Kerr, who is the coach of the Golden State Warriors, a legend in the NBA, obviously played with the Bulls and won 3 championships. He said the Warriors are thinking about doing a reset, kind of Bulls style, where they're going to say, okay, that's enough. We're not going to do a last dance tour with Steph Curry. We're going to let it all rebuild now. And Steve Kerr is one of the people who they're thinking we're going to let him go. Steve Kerr has front office experience. He said in his press conference after they got bounced, I'm not going to coach next year if I don't coach here. But he didn't say anything about running a team, and he has run a team. He ran the Phoenix Suns in 2007 to 2010, and they were good. That was when the Suns actually had something going there. So the question is, what's going to excite and bring some oomph back to Chicago? And Steve Kerr would be it. Now, we know the Bulls so well, Reinsdorf and company. They're not going to shell out money for that. If he doesn't, they want to be in control. So there's a good chance Steve Kerr doesn't go back to Golden State. But if I were the Bulls, this is a moment in time right now to connect the past, bring it to the future. He's only 60 years old, and bring some of that Ben Johnson oomph to the Bulls. And I think that would be a great thing. Now, time will tell, because it is the Bulls, but right now, as we're watching NBA playoffs, it's a head scratcher why one of the biggest markets in the sport is just every year not in the playoffs.
One of the most illustrious teams of all time, and yet we're the only team in the league that hasn't won a playoff series since 2016 or drafted an all-star. It's kind of like Bears fans. We always ready for the push for that next wave of energy and excitement, even if it just means a locked-in playoff spot. Mac, what do you think this team needs?
Oof. I mean, I don't even know where to start, guys. Isn't that the problem? Like, think about this for a second. Can you think of a professional sports team in a big market that's more irrelevant than the Chicago Bulls have been? No, right? Like, last time I checked that,
New York Jets.
There you go.
Jets.
Point taken. When you're being compared to the Jets.
You're in the same bed as the Jets. Yeah.
I mean, last I checked, the point guard for the Chicago Bulls was 5'6". Like where do you guys go from there? I mean, we're seeing players recently traded off the Bulls being great in the playoffs. Kobe White hit, a clutch game-winning shot in the play-in for the Hornets. Ayo Dosunmu is killing it for the Timberwolves.
Ballin'.
So I think it's got to start with the GM, right? You need a competent person to tear down whatever's left of the team and completely start over. But, this whole thing has just been very frustrating for me. For the 5 years I lived in Chicago, it just, I've barely gone to the Bulls game because the price is just not worth the product, I find, more time than not. And kind of circling back to our older conversation, it seems like sports are largely about extraction from people and less about community. The prices keep going up and people keep coming and they keep paying for them, and the teams seem to value profit over, creating a community center, something for people to rally around the United Center. So as long as that attitude, I think, is a driver, it's going to be hard for the Bulls to be relevant.
Justin, not to go too far off field, but like this current $7 billion development happening outside of the stadium, does that signal they're willing to spend more money on the franchise, or is that just about like fattening their pockets?
You see it with all the sports teams. I mean, the Ricketts included. Let's not. But it's a game. Name of the game is real estate. The Ricketts bought up most of Wrigleyville, all around, all that renovation from those hotels and the rooftops and everything. That's owned by Ricketts and Company. You look at what the White Sox want to do, build a stadium, and Ishbia talking about, but just randomly buying river property. This is a game that's more than sports. And you're talking about the 1901 and around the United Center, which is a huge development. But at the beginning, we talked about tax breaks. These are the kind of things that they're going to want in on. Reinsdorf's going to want in on. Ishbia is going to want in on. Ricketts going to want in on. Everyone's going to want a piece of it. And at the end of the day, sports is big, big money in Chicago. Yeah. And big money is usually placed in development, real estate. It's not necessarily about the product on the court or the field. But again, that's a problem when you're talking about this league is an all-star league. It's driven these big LeBron James, Luka Doncic. That's where you do what you do to bring a team together. Are the Bulls going to do that to make ends meet? I don't know. I think they're more interested in the property surrounding the stadium.
All right. Every single episode of CityCast Chicago ends the exact same way, and that is with some good news. Mac, what's your good news for us?
Well, since I'm moving, I got a mile-long bucket list of just things I want to do before I leave town. And number one on that list is to bike the entire Lakefront Trail, which I don't even know is humanly possible for me or most people, but might as well try it, right? So today seems like a good start.
No, that is a very good goal. I've done about half of it. This summer, I am going to do top to tail. So, no, that's a good reminder for me. Justin, over to you. What's your good news?
Well, I was going to say Mooney Murakami and the White Sox slugger who has just tore up the league early to the beginning of the season. It's great. I mean, it's awesome.
Second most home runs in the league, just ahead of Aaron Judge with 10.
It's pretty amazing to have the rate of return on a guy that was a home run or bust player in Japan who has turned out to be a sensation early. It's great for the White Sox, and Nico Horner on the north side too is having a tremendous start. But I'm gonna say my good news is that Mac's moving to New York for the softball league, because this I would say that the Block Club Tribune team was a rising star, and Mac is the captain. He's the heart and soul of that team. So it helps me from the Axios side.
We're gonna rebuild a little better than the Bulls are, for sure. So watch your back.
I love that though. He was like, Horner is hitting 320 up on the north side. Murakami got 10 homers on the south side. But my best baseball softball news is Mac ain't gonna be in the league this year.
Good I love news.
That, Mac. You on the same place as Horner and Murakami today, my guy.
That's high leader.
Is there Wrigley Rat good news? It seems like a lot of people love that guy scurrying around the field.
I know, I love it. It reminds us all that we live in a really big, gross city.
Well, Wrigley has these very dark concourses, and they sell over 1 million hot dogs a year, I found out. So it feels like the Rats know what's up.
Yeah, they're usually not that brazen to be like, what's on this field when everybody's out?
That's what I was going to say. It was like the Rats getting bolder. It looked a little fatter.
It's awesome. It's a great reminder that Wrigley Field is 100+ years old.
I am going to close us out. My good news is the forthcoming independent bookstore crawl to celebrate Indie Bookstore Day. You can show up at a participating bookstore. There are 80 in the Chicagoland area. You get yourself a passport, and then you get it stamped at every bookstore you visit. No purchase required, but let's be real. Go on, throw them some bread, pick yourself up something. They want you to visit 10 stores in one day. You're going to get 10% off all participating bookstores for an entire year. You hit 15, you're going to get 15% off. Kobe, what if I hit 70? They don't give discounts of 70% off. So if you do that, make some content and maybe the algorithm will pay you. But Please check our show notes so you can get the full map of the 2026 Chicagoland bookstore crawl. And then reach out to me. I want to know, where are you going to start and end your personal crawl? And bonus points if you also doing like a bar crawl simultaneously and you slowly getting a little bit more out your mind, please document that and send it to me. I want to see somebody pull it off. I want to give a huge thank you to our guest today from Axios Chicago, Justin Kaufman. I appreciate you making time for us. I see you out there on the diamond.
Thanks for having me.
And from Block Club Chicago, Mac Liederman, always appreciate you stopping by. Good luck in your next chapter, my friend.
Yeah, thanks for waking me up today too, Jacoby. I appreciate it.
All right, so normally this is the part of the show where I wrap up, but this is the last day of our spring membership campaign. And I just want you to know, you've been listening all week. I appreciate you. If you haven't been skipping through these, thank you. If you've already signed up to become a neighbor, thank you. My hope is that if you're listening to this, you are open to exploring new things, trying new things. Maybe you've already arrived at that place where you want to become a part of a network that's getting ad-free listening, neighbors-only events, bonus segments, tours with the Chicago Architecture Center. And above all of that, you want to join a group that is uplifting one of the best media teams in Chicago, bar none. This small 5-person team is cranking out social content, daily newsletters, daily podcasts, and we've been doing them last two for 5 years. And go check the records. We ain't never missed a day we were supposed to be there. But we also need neighbor support to keep this thing going for years, newsletters and episodes to come. Like, what truly says that we were successful is not simply the ability for us to put out something that we love every day, but to see that reflected back to us in more people listening, more people sharing, more people joining our neighbors program. And so, hey, head over to membership.citycast.fm/Chicago for your last chance to get our limited edition CityCast Chicago pennant. Shout out to all of our new neighbors: Elena S., Rachel C., Kaylee B., Laura K., Sarah S., Daniel A., Andrew W., and Paul W. Paul actually told us why he joined. I wanted to support local journalism and also have opportunities to meet like-minded people. Paul, I'm sure you're going to meet a ton of great people at our members-only events to get invited and to support local journalism. Come on, head to membership.citycast.fm/Chicago. We need like 100 of y'all to sign up today so we can hit our goals. Come on. I ain't trying to go back to our CityCast national meeting and find out we done lost to Denver again. And if I can't win as a Sox fan, a Bears fan, and a Bulls fan, I need to win something. I'm trying to win, and I want you to be on the team. Membership.citycast.fm/Chicago. You know, I got to thank every single person who makes this podcast and newsletter possible. Our executive producer is Simone Alicea. Our creative producers are Michelle Navarro and Emmy Mack. Our audience development manager is Chima Okoro. Post-production by PJ Shahamat. And our music is from Sam Thousand, All the Kimonos, and Mark Greenberg from the Mayfair Workshop. We're going to be back in your feeds and inboxes bright and early next week. It's Kobe's B-Day week. So, hey, if you want to give me an early birthday present, membership.citycast.fm/Chicago, $10 a month, $100 a year. See you next week. Peace.